Greetings everyone, welcome back to Blade Bias. Today we will be talking about my time with the Shattered Concepts Rift, a ballad song made by Shattered Concept, who is a designer that's been designing ballad songs for a very long time within the hobby, but this is his first design that he's actually releasing. Unfortunately, my thoughts on this ballad song are very complicated, as I think there are some problems with the design that keep me from enjoying it in a way that I otherwise could have. But I want to be completely transparent in saying that I am in a really tough spot here. Being a YouTuber that makes videos on this stuff inherently means, whether I want it to or not, I spent a long time saying that you shouldn't use these videos as purchasing advice, but I've given up on that because it's just not realistic. People are going to do it anyway. Being a YouTuber talking about these knives and being a YouTuber who receives early access to these knives, by the way, this was sent as a loaner from Shattered for the purpose of the videos I've been making on it. Huge thank you to Shattered for giving me a pre-production unit to check out. Loaning me a pre-production unit to check out. I really appreciate it, but it puts me in a ridiculously tough spot because when I levy what I feel to be valid criticisms on this product, it doesn't mean that I hate the product. My real opinion on the Rift is that it is a phenomenal first try from a maker like Shattered, especially someone who hasn't released anything in all the time they've been designing. It's really easy with ballad songs to get carried away with some design that ends up not flipping very well because you didn't make considerations towards flipping and you just wanted something that looks cool. Shattered managed to mostly avoid this, in my opinion, and I think that effort deserves to be commended. I have a few problems with the overall design, nothing crazy deal-breaking, but I know that negativity is going to negatively affect Shattered as a company inherently. Because the problem with YouTubers in this hobby is they hold a ton of power. Someone says they don't like something and suddenly people don't want to buy it anymore. So it puts me, again, just being completely transparent with you guys, with the thought process I've been going through when thinking about how I'm going to talk with this product, it puts me in an extremely difficult situation because on one hand, the Rift isn't something that I would personally buy. It's not a ballad song that I enjoy based on my preferences. But I still think it's a ballad song worth buying for the people whose preferences it would fit. So I want you to keep all of that in mind while I talk about my experience with the Shattered today, because while it's not a crazy negative thing, I don't want my negativity towards it, or I don't want my saying I wouldn't buy one, but I think you still should, to be something where people are going to go, oh, check that off the list. I'm not looking at that anymore. I want to be extremely clear. If you think the Rift looks cool, you will probably enjoy the Rift. Cool? Cool. Let's talk about my time and my opinions with the Rift. The Rift is an insanely fun flipper. My number one problem with it is, my monitor's been having issues. I have to unplug it or it's going to annoy the crap out of me. My number one problem with the Rift is the face texture. The face texture is too sharp. It's too uncomfortable. This is a titanium ballad song, and I personally have never felt that titanium ever has any crazy grip issues, even when it's, smooth. Something like the Seraph, while not the grippiest thing out there, I've never really had grip issues with, even though the titanium on it is like soft to the touch. It's very smooth. This is an incredibly abrasive, sharp face texturing, which I just don't think is needed on titanium. I think there are some people out there who are really going to like that about it, but I just found it to be uncomfortable, especially for longer flipping sessions. And ironically, Shattered just revealed his next design, I think, which is supposed to be, again, I think, an aluminum trainer, which ironically has no texturing of any kind on it. So, if you ask me, he got that a little backwards. I think this texturing would be amazing on something like an aluminum balisong. It's almost like a Pacific style texturing, like that really sharp, fine, gritty feeling. I think that just would work so much better on aluminum, not titanium. But I digress. How's the flipping of the Rift? The Rift is a very fun flipper. It's a very lightweight, effortless flipper. I always said that the Kuno was kind of my break balisong because it didn't take a ton of effort to flip. It was super floaty. It was super light. You didn't really have to put a ton of effort into flipping it. And you don't have to put a ton of effort into flipping the Rift. It's lightweight and it's small. And the handles, as we'll get into later, don't have a ton of weight to them, which means that changing momentum, changing directions is very easy and something that can be done a lot without any sort of fatigue or anything like that. And I think that is Rift's biggest strength, is its ability to be a very lightweight, low effort flipper. My biggest problems with Rift also come from that lightweight, low effort flipping experience. If we take a look at Rift, one of my biggest problems with the design is the length of the blade. If we compare it to something of similar size, like the wing from Nibali's, you can see that the blade just is very short. And sure, like there's a lot of extra weight, or there's a lot of extra material here towards the end of the blade, towards the end of the handles. Why can't I speak today? But you look at the Rift and it's almost comical how much extra space is at the end of the handles here. There's like almost a solid inch of just pure handle. And while it's not the biggest issue in the world, I still definitely think that I notice it. And I think it's kind of the reason that the unsteady chaplain thing existed in the first impressions video, which I have noticed has only gotten worse as I've flipped the Rift, but we will get into that a little bit later. The short blade is kind of hidden by the fact that there is not much weight at the end of the handles. If we take a look at the thing that I compared the Rift to, ironically, I realized it's because NRB has helped Shattered quite a bit with the design and production process of this. But if we take a look at the Nemesis, you can see how much extra weight is in here. Granted, the Rift has that kind of sloping thing at the end of the channel, but I don't really think there's any reason to have that because the channel goes on for like, gosh, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch past the blade. It's like a huge amount. Whereas if you look at the Nemesis is taking up most of that channel. But what I realized, I was like, oh, that looks like a normal amount of weight to me at the end of the handles. Why does it feel so light? What I realized is not only is it shorter than the Nemesis, but look at how much less material overall is in these handles. These handles are incredibly thin. They're incredibly small. They're incredibly light. So that normal looking weight at the end of the handles ends up not feeling like a lot at all, which works in its favor because it hides that short blade, but I think is ultimately the reason that I can't chaplain this thing past 5 rotations. Once, that's hyperbole, but what happens with the Rift is in a matter of half a rotation from a chaplain, it will go from feeling completely stuck, completely planted on your finger, to across the room. And from what I have found, there's no way to fix that. There's no way to save that chaplain once it starts going awry. If you slow it down, like I feel like I should be slowing it down and making bigger circles, but as soon as you lose it, it happens too fast for you to really react to. There's no saving it. And you can't go faster because it will spin out almost instantly. If I speed up right now, it's gone. And I think that ultimately comes down to the fact that both the end of the handles are not carrying much momentum at all, because when you chaplain, the whole balisong is basically going into that chaplain. You have the blade, you have the handles, everything is spinning around your finger. The problem with the Rift is that there's no momentum anywhere. It's kind of the opposite problem that we talked about the Shino having in the last video. The handles don't have enough momentum to keep that chaplain going, but the blade also isn't helping because the blade is more weight, the blade is weight that's closer to the pivots, which means it's not carrying as much momentum as it would if the blade was, say, out here. So I genuinely believe that the problem with the chaplains is because of both of those coming together to create a very interesting experience. Now, it's not the worst. I don't want people to think that it's the worst thing ever. The Rift, if you keep things to short rotations, short revolution numbers, I only chaplain for 1, 2, 3 cycles. It feels fine. It feels planted. It feels great. But as soon as you do anything extended 0G, extended normal chaplain, anything like that, it just flies away. And it's almost feels completely random as to when it flies away. So if you just keep it to 1, 2, 3 rotations, it feels fine. Feels normal. Feels like you can do it. Wow, that sucked. Sorry, shattered. I'm gonna push that in. Okay, maybe I can't because I'm a bad flipper now, I guess. Okay. There you go. You can do it, but if you keep that 0G going for too long, it will just fly off your finger. So, at the end of the day, while I feel that the Rift is a really fun, lightweight flipper that doesn't require a lot of energy or strength or anything like that, it also has a few quirks which really, really kind of take down its performance in my mind, and is the reason that I really honestly wouldn't own one. I wouldn't buy something that doesn't do the tricks that I normally want to do because of the shorter blade. Fans are incredibly wobbly. You have that momentum jumping back and forth between the handles, which create the shake that you feel when you fan. Not a huge fan of that. I like doing longer chaplains. I chaplained for over an hour to get the previous chaplain world record. I like those extended chaplains. I like those extended 0Gs. And that just isn't where the Rift shines. The Rift shines in lightweight, low rotation flipping, where you're just kind of switching between tricks, changing momentum, doing a lot of stuff like that. And it's fun. And again, it is a phenomenal first try for a maker who has only ever designed stuff. But ultimately, it falls short for me because of those key issues with the design. So, again, while I want to reiterate, if you like the Rift, if you like the look of it, if you like the sound of the flipping experience that I'm describing, go for it. You probably won't be disappointed. But if you're someone like me, who's into those, extended chaplains or those extended fans or whatever, choker fans, stuff like that, this might not be it for you. But if you like the design, give it a chance. Small makers are in a rough spot lately, and I would feel real bad if my slightly negative view on a balisong that someone made ruined them, basically. Just being honest. It's a little bit of a tough thing to figure out. So I want to thank Shattered again for taking a chance sending this thing out to me. Again, I think you did a phenomenal job for your first design. And I want to thank you all for watching. But I will see you all in the next one. Peace.